a lot of people don't even realize they have the opportunity to dream big and to go for it and to make amazing things happen.
I've heard people turn around to me and say, it's great for you, but people like us don't achieve that sort of thing. To which I have to say, well, but why not? Almost anything is possible. The mind is so powerful. We're limited just by our own conception of what might be possible or what might not be possible.
You might as well believe that anything is possible rather than thinking that it's not possible. Hello everyone. I am very excited that you are joining me for this very special version of She Means Business Live. So I'm actually on holiday. Today is our last full day here, and I wrangled my dad into coming and joining me for this, which is very exciting. Anyone tuning in from Tenerife, because that is where we are. So yeah, it's me, my mum and dad. Obviously me and Kellen and the kids, and James, my brother, has come with us as well. I've done one other interview. I think I did a podcast with you once before.
Okay.
Actually, do you know what? It was during the pandemic we did that. And if any of you have read my book, She Means Business, you will have heard me talk about my dad. My dad has been such a huge mentor for me. There's no way I would be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for the things that he has taught me. I know I've said this so many times, but when I was about 10, he sent me and my sister and my two brothers on this program to learn about the power of the mind, and I learned about visualization. You've always been telling me, decide what you want, write it down. He's bought me so many books as a teenager and continues to buy them. I've brought one of the books he bought me on this trip with me. And so I just thought, given that we were away together, that it would be a fun little opportunity to get him to join me. He actually didn't realize that I meant for him to come on with me until this morning at breakfast. So thanks for being a good sport.
Well, that was sprung on me. That was
yes. Before actually we start this conversation, though, I just wanted to say we have been doing some very exciting stuff for our upcoming Ideas to Income Challenge. If you haven't signed up for it yet, it's free. Sign up. I just saw the workbook, it's like the road trip companion journal that we've created to go along with it, and it looks so amazing. We're going to have so much fun in it. I'm doing basically 4 live sessions. So it's 3 workshops and a masterclass. And it kicks off on April the 29th. So definitely come join me for that if you haven't already signed up. Anyway, because that is all about how do you go from an idea and turn it into income. And that's kind of how I want to kick this conversation off, because all of us here, everyone in the chat, we're all building our businesses. We all want to create success. And you have created so much success in your life, and you started obviously from nothing, but you also grew up in a poor, you grew up with nothing, with not very much. So I wanted to talk about that and what inspired you to kind of dream big, because a lot of people don't even realize they have the opportunity to dream big and to go for it and to make amazing things happen. So that's one thing. And then I also want to talk about resilience, because you've had so many ups and downs in your business journey, and some of those downs have been really, really challenging, and yet you've found a way through all of it and you've kept going, and you haven't burnt out. Because I asked my dad, I don't know, a few months ago, maybe last year, I asked him and said, how have you not burnt out in your business journey, because you work so hard, but I've never known you to burn out or to be burnt out, really. And I asked my dad that because I was feeling just kind of wiped out, burnt out with things, and you gave a really interesting answer that I want to talk about as well. So anyway, let's start back at the beginning of your journey, from being growing up with nothing, to then what sparked the dream that you could have more, be more, experience more.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the notice that you gave me. So, well, there we go. Great to meet you all, if only virtually. As Carrie said, I came from a fairly poor background. My parents had really nothing at all. We lived in a rented terraced house for the first 10 years of my life. and we lived in what would now be called, euphemistically called, social housing then for the next 10 years of my life until I was 20. And at various points during that journey, things happened. And I was very fortunate that my uncle used to take me out for lunch twice a year, once on my birthday and another time. And we used to go to a fairly, what we call a posh restaurant now, for Sunday lunch. And I was sat there thinking, I quite like this sort of situation. So this person from whose parents really had absolutely nothing at all. We didn't have a car until I was 14 or 15, maybe a bit older than that, actually. And we didn't have a television or cars or anything like that. Anyway, you can hear the violins playing in the background. But I saw this and I thought, I quite like this idea. And from there, I think the seed was sown. And Carrie and I were talking recently, actually, with the same uncle. We stayed at a weekend when I was 12 in a hotel in Keswick in the Lake District in England, and the Royal Oak in Keswick. And we went into the television room at night time, and as I passed the manager of the hotel, I said, "Excuse me, sir, excuse me," as I walked past, and he stood bolt to attention and said, "Certainly, sir." And I thought, this is a different life. This is something that I don't experience anywhere else. And the whole of that weekend, I can remember every minute detail of it because of this manager's attention to detail. So the journey continued from there. On my bedside cabinet, I had a model of a Rolls Royce. And the last thing I looked at night before I went to sleep was this Rolls Royce. And the first thing I looked at in the morning was this Rolls Royce. And I said, one day I'm going to have one of those, which was slightly incongruous. We were living in a council house, and there was ice on the inside of the windows in winter time. So it was slightly unusual. At the age of 15, I bought my first personal development book, which was Alcoran's Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind. And I read the book and then did what it said in the book. And I bizarrely, it seemed strange at the time, and people would laugh now, but he said, write out little things, statements that you want to have, and put them under your pillow, and watch what happens. And so I did that religiously every night. I wrote a little message and stuck it under my pillow. And ultimately, I failed all my exams. I went to a secondary modern school that didn't even have O levels or GCSEs as they were at the time. And so I went on. I joined the Inland Revenue in Rochdale, which was my hometown. And one of the senior people there asked me one day, "What do you intend to do?" And I said, "Well, one day I'm going to be a millionaire." And they fell around laughing and joking at the point of this person who was a clerical assistant in the Inland Revenue, who was one day going to be a millionaire. And I think we all face challenges like that sometimes, that people laugh at what we say we're going to do. And so I could go on ad nauseum about that journey. And I think the most important thing here is what potentially we can achieve. And so we have to look, we have to be clear about what we want and what we want to achieve and how we're going to develop that. I mean, Stephen Covey, in one of the 7 habits, talks about start with the end in mind. And I think that's really important, that we visualize what we want to be and what we want to achieve. And then we've got to identify what we are good at, and what we enjoy doing. And I think for all our businesses, we have to immerse ourselves in the business idea that we've got. It's not good enough just to say, well, I fancy doing this or whatever, because that's fine. If that's the only thing that I fancy doing something, then you may well derive an income from that, but you won't build a business. And if you're on this call and you're part of Carrie's group and whatever, because you want to go beyond that, you want to be entrepreneurs and to develop a business. And I've built and sold various businesses over the years. And Carrie said sometimes it hasn't worked out, and that's just life. but you have to understand the nuances. There's a statement that says casualness leads to casualties, and that's it. The major threat to any business is mediocrity and complacency, and we have to be on our guard all the time to ensure that our business, that we don't become mediocre in our thing, we don't become complacent, and we have to establish what we want to do. And more important than that, we have to understand what we are good at. And then we can move on from there. Now, for instance, for me, take me as an example, I'm good at making things happen. I'm not a general that sits on a hill. I'm saber drawn out doing it and making things happen and building businesses. If it comes to the detail, I'm not very good at that, and I'm not very good at it primarily because I don't enjoy doing it. So the simple answer is success comes from building a team of people around us. That might not be every day. Where I started on my own, or I started with a business partner, with a desk, two chairs either side, in the cutting room of a textile warehouse with a telephone in the middle. So fairly humble beginnings from that point of view on my first business. But we knew where we wanted to be, and we knew how we were going to develop that. And you have to immerse yourselves in all that and do what you're good at, and as fast as possible start building your team, and then delegate the things that you don't want to do or that you're not good at to somebody else, because the success of your business will come from doing. You're the ones with the idea. You came up with an idea. You wanted to be in business. You wanted to develop something. You wanted to achieve a result that improved the life of you and improved the life of your family. And that's what it was all about. So you're going to develop a business. So you need the team. So the accountancy and the bookkeeping, offload that to somebody else. There's lots of people who can do a bookkeeping and accountancy and whatever. So get somebody else to do that, because your grain of an idea, your vision of what you wanted to do is the really important part. So if we're going to work 12 or 14 or 15 hours a day, and we regularly do, there's no easy ride being an entrepreneur and being in business. If you want an easy ride, go and work for somebody else and work 9 till 5 and go from there. The myth that being an entrepreneur allows you to do all sorts of other things, it may at some point, but the reality that I found, and even today, is that we still work 12, 14, 15 hours a day. I've been working whilst we've been here in Tenerife. Sorry?
I don't work 15 hours a day.
Yeah, well, I still do that. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, Carrie.
Maybe you can learn something from me now.
Yeah, maybe I can.
You know what, though? I remember telling you, you were like, you need an office, Carrie, you need an office, Carrie. So I got an office, and then the pandemic hits, and Dad's like, oh, wow, you can do Zoom calls from wherever. You don't need an office. You can learn something from me.
I can learn something. If there was a silver lining to COVID, it was that it changed my perception of how a business can be run. And as it happens, our current business, which is now growing at a pace, is dispersed throughout England. We're only involved in England, but it's dispersed throughout England. So working remotely is almost a demand of the business, because we're in the care home business and we're in property and so on. But so most of our staff, several hundred of those people, actually work in the field in the care homes that we've got. So we have no central location. There are no fountains, no flagpoles, no prestigious office. We operate from a hub-based situation that actually delivers a result for us.
Yeah. Right. So let's talk about, well, there's a few things that you actually just shared, which I thought was interesting. And I did see someone in the chat say they're going to get a model of an Aston Martin. I highly recommend this.
I love the Aston Martin, by the way, if you're still on that, especially the rag top.
I have done that and bought like models of things that I've wanted. And I've put pictures of things in gold books and things that my dad told me to do when he told me to write things down that I wanted, or create these like vision boards of the things that I wanted. A Maserati. I remember I had a boyfriend when I was, I think, 18, and he wanted a Maserati. And so I remember buying him a Maserati keyring so he could look at the keyring. Yes, anyway, me and him are not together, obviously, now. A sailboat. I love it. So firstly, you got really into personal development, and like you said, you bought your first personal development book at 15, Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind. And I feel like that has really shaped you because you're constantly learning, you're constantly exploring and like expanding your mind. And
I think there's I'm not I have to be honest, I'm not the greatest fan of Tony Robbins. I know Carrie is, but I'm not. His style doesn't appeal to me. However, one of the things that I've taken from Tony Robbins, he has a program called Can I, CANI, which is constant and never-ending improvement. And if you reverse that, it says I can. And that's the important part. So constant and never-ending improvement is what we all ought to be interested in. Is that we should never stand still. There's so many opportunities, so much to learn. So I brought the same book that I bought Carrie. I brought with me, and I've been reading it, which is Beyond Entrepreneurship by Jim Collins. And his first book was Good to Great, which is probably one of the best business books that I've ever read. I think this one, Beyond Entrepreneurship, is arguably is better even than Good to Great. And so, well, somebody may come up with the next sliced bread idea. So we need to be open and receptive to everything around us and everything that we do within that. And it should be fun. And the answer is, if it's not fun, don't do it. I found business even in the most challenging times. And Carrie mentions, yes, there have been some real challenging times, but that's business, you know. Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. And that's the best thing I can say. I meditate every day for 20 minutes every day. Should do it twice a day, but I don't find the time to do that. I could make the time, but I haven't done. But I do meditate every day for 20 minutes. And I find that clears my mind to an extent. And it's that clarity of thought that is important. And if we're not careful, we get bogged down by the minutiae of day-to-day running and day-to-day business. And we need to clear that away so that we can focus on, again, what we said earlier, start with the end in mind. What are we looking to achieve? And keep that point in our mind all the time. Just review that, have it in front of you, write down where you're going. The bottom line is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So we want to know where we're going to go. Jim Rohn says, who's my favorite personal development guru, and I'd encourage everybody to read every part or listen to every part of Jim Rohn that you can get your hands on. Setting goals. He said, forget all the rubbish that people talk about setting goals. The answer to setting goals is decide what you want and write it down. And that's as simple as goal setting. You can buy books on setting goals. It's totally unnecessary. Decide what you want and write it down and focus on that. And that's part of the journey that we're looking to embrace.
Do you remember you used to walk around the house saying, I think it was Jim Rohn, you messed up? Do you remember that?
Of course, and you messed up. And the course that Carrie alluded to earlier on, which was Norma Black's development course for children when they were 10. And my youngest son, who was 5 at the time, wanted to go on the same course. And I said, I think you're too young. Anyway, the upshot of all that is it was a weekend course, and we went there, and I said, they'll show you the classroom and whatever. So they did. They came back and said he wants to stay. So I said, you can stay, but there's no coming back. If you stay today, you have to stay tomorrow. So he said, okay, I'll do that, Dad. And one of the things that Jack Black talks about, and Carrie will allude to that, and the house on the right bank, and all the rest of visualization and the power of doing that, was that Jack Black says, no matter how bad you feel, and we all get up in the morning sometimes and think, oh, I just don't feel very well, it's a lousy day and whatever, is no matter what, you feel fantastic. Anybody asks you how you feel, I am fantastic. And Nick used to walk around. I had to call him as we're getting ready to go to taking him to school. I'd say, "How are you, Nick?" And he'd say, "Fantastic, Dad, fantastic." And everybody now, and I still say the same now. If somebody turns around to me on a call and says, "How are you? Great stuff. How are you?" I'll say, "Absolutely fantastic." And more often than not, they turn around and say, "Well, I don't think I'm quite that good." And the answer to that is, why not? Why aren't you that good? Because we have the choice. That's our decision. Nobody else's. Problems occur, and that's fine. It's how we deal with those and how we mentally adjust to whatever those problems are. And we need to be fantastic. We have to program the mind. The mind is so powerful, and we have to program the mind to get over all the obstacles that we find as we go forward, as entrepreneurs in life generally. But most people, if you ask them how they feel, they say, "Well, not too bad." Guess what? The dominant word of that is bad. And the subconscious mind focuses on the dominant word that you say, and that's bad. So, okay, this guy feels bad. We'll help him on that journey. We'll help him to feel bad and whatever. So from today onwards, if you don't already, if anybody asks you how you are, say fantastic. And they'll laugh at, some of the people will laugh at you and just shrug your shoulders and say, "Well, I feel fantastic." So
That's brilliant, because when I ask you how you are and you're like, if you ever say I'm fine, I think something's wrong. Something's very wrong.
Yeah.
But it's really inspiring though, listening to you. And I feel like you are someone who you decide what you want and you go for it. And you are very optimistic, sometimes maybe to a fault, maybe. Yeah. But I think you are so optimistic and you go for it. I remember a good few years ago, you needed to achieve some huge goal and you had some screensaver on your phone that you would look at. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. I still got it.
What does it say?
I'll have to get my phone and read it to you. But it's from the Moses Code.
Oh yes, that was it. The Moses Code, another book.
It's on there, and it again is it's understanding that almost anything is possible. You know, I've heard people turn around to me and say, "It's great for you, but people like like us don't achieve that sort of thing." To which I have to say, well, but why not? That there are no glass ceilings. People turn around and say there's a limitation. There are no limitations. We're limited just by our own conception of what might be possible or what might not be possible. And trust me, there are no limitations to what we can do. And if we focus on that basis, that will take us over any obstacles that occur.
I do think having that perspective of believing with every part of our being that anything is possible, it opens up so many more opportunities to flow to us. Because when you think that there's limitations or you hold yourself back, and I think that's one of the biggest things for all of us, is struggling to get out of our own way, struggling to actually stop those limiting thoughts. But I agree. I mean, like I always say, you're here for one time. It's a one-time ticket. You don't get to come again. And you might as well believe that anything is possible rather than thinking that it's not possible. Because when you, like you always say, if you put your mind to something, you can achieve so much.
I'm not a high flyer. As people look at the success and people look at that, there are high flyers in this world, but I'm not one of them. I've just worked consistently hard for the whole of my life. From the age of 12 onwards, I've never stopped working, and I don't intend to ever stop working. So from that point of view, is that you don't have to be a high flyer. You just have to be consistent. Just keep going no matter what. And sometimes it feels like we're walking through treacle and life is really difficult. And you think, today has been a real challenge. Well, yeah, some days are a real challenge. We just have to keep going. And if we keep on working hard, and let me just tell you a very brief story about Carrie, and she'll get irritated about this, but I have a belief that every child should have to play a musical instrument. And why do? And in fact, you could apply that to almost anything. You could apply that to learning a language, a different language, or whatever. The one with Carrie is that at the age of 8, she decided she wanted to learn to play the clarinet. So we bought her a clarinet, and the first few days she could get barely a squeak out of the thing. 7 years later, she passed grade 8 playing probably the most beautiful thing ever written for the instrument, which the second movement of Mozart's clarinet concerto, and she passed grade 8, which was almost an impossible task. And her coach at the time, when she said, "I'm going to go from grade 6 to grade 8, said that is an impossible achievement. Well, anyone who knows Carrie realizes that nothing is impossible, and she went from grade 6 to grade 8 because she couldn't be bothered to do grade 7. Now, but the moral to this story is, how did she achieve that? By 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes dragged in, kicking and screaming into doing the practice on a daily basis, but practicing for 15 to 20 minutes a day took her from getting a squeak out of the instrument to be able to pass grade 8 playing the second movement of Mozart's clarinet concerto.
And the third movement.
So I think that encapsulates everything that we can do. We just have to start somewhere. The old adage is, how do you eat an elephant? The answer is one bite at a time. It is that we make little steps. We pick up what we can do and how we can do it. And each day we should register what progress we've made towards achieving our goal and our objective, keeping that fully in front of us all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just that 15 to 20 minutes a day, if we dedicated ourselves to that on anything for a year, we would be an expert in that particular subject. And that's what I'd encourage anybody, whatever your idea is, you become the go-to expert in whatever field you've chosen in your entrepreneurial journey, and immerse yourself in that, and fully understand every facet of what you want to do going forward, so that there is nothing. So if somebody says, "Well, what about this?" you know the answer. And if you don't know the answer, then find out, so the following day you'll know the answer to that. So make a note. But you should be, if you've chosen the journey to be an entrepreneur, then you owe it to yourself that you fully understand every facet of that. And 15 to 20 minutes a day for a year will allow you to be the go-to expert in whatever field it is that you've identified.
Thanks for that. And some of the other things, because people are saying you should put a reading list together. Maybe we can create one. But yes, because you also told me about cosmic ordering, so we cosmic order for things. Yeah. And as much as you are very practical, you also are pretty woo. And with our cosmic ordering, and we like to use our imaginations and just believe we can make amazing things happen. And I think that is so cute.
We can make amazing things happen. I mean, there's no question about that.
I think that's some of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is, one, decide what you want, write it down, and completely immerse yourself in the belief that anything is possible and that you can make it happen. Knowing that success isn't this straightforward line, it's this journey with ups and downs, and it's really about remembering that if we keep showing up and keep working, and, you know, like the Winston Churchill quote of, if you go through hell, keep going, just keeping on going, that we can keep making amazing things happen. We don't need to give up on ourselves and give up on our dreams or settle for less or anything. Like, we get one life, and, you know, keep going. And it was something else you said that I think is really true, is like, don't be mediocre. And I think that's really powerful, because I think it's so easy to be complacent and mediocre, but we're not here for mediocrity. We are here to be successful. That requires us to sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey says.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to to not be mediocre, to be really good. Like you said, get really good and immerse yourself in everything to do with your own business and the area of expertise that you are, you're following. Any final thoughts you want to share?
No, I think, listen, the reason that everyone's on this call now is that we want to improve. We want to get better. We're looking to share ideas as to how we can get from A to B faster and make more money or have more fun, whatever the objective on there is. And that's why you're members of the FEA and looking to help other people. I think for me, it's as important now to help other people and to encourage people. I've stopped trying to push water uphill because it's incredibly difficult. But I think the reality to that is if people have the spark of wanting to know how they can get from A to B or to help, then our job as entrepreneurs is to help them wherever we possibly can, is in developing the team and helping people and growing the people. That's what happens in the military. People start off as a regular soldier or whatever and can end up being a general or field marshal or and whatever. And I think that's part of the journey that we're on. We need to be open and receptive to any ideas that come forward. Some will work and some won't. So that's fine. That's just life. But it doesn't mean to say that we should stop just because something doesn't work. The answer is that's fine. We just carry on and we find something that does work and helps us to progress every day. Jim Rohn has an expression, is get from the day rather than get through the day. And that's what at the end of the day, we should reflect on what have we learned today? What have we improved? What have we achieved? And I think that's really important. And I think that's the best. If you take away from this is get from the day, not through the day. That again is just an important part of our entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you so much for joining me on our holiday for Sheen's Business Live. I hope you have all thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Now you can see where I get it from. It's actually not just coming from me. I'm just channeling my dad. For my whole life, this is the kind of stuff he said, which is why when I was a teenager, I created my goal folder. And even as a teenager, I vividly visualized building a house, which is the house that I'm now in the process of building, which is so crazy. But none of that, I wouldn't be doing any of that if it wasn't for those ideas you planted in my head.
On the box. Whatever's in the box is.
It's a box he gave me, and there was the Abraham Hicks CD Ask and It's Given set of CDs, and you got me the box, and on the front of it said whatever's in the box is. And I put things in my box. But so many things. And I think everything comes back down to the simple idea that decide what you want and decide you're going to make it happen. Thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm shivering like a leaf because this wind is chilling and I'm just like this.
But it's a clear blue sky.
It's a clear blue sky. I need to go and sit in the sun.
Yeah.
But excellent. Yes, thank you all so much for joining. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I would love to hear some of the biggest nuggets you got from it. Feel free to tag me on Instagram and share some of your top
And it's great to meet up with you. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm not involved with LinkedIn, but if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an invitation.
Actually on LinkedIn, every time a woman connects with him, he actually tells them all about me. Do you still do that?
I do. Yeah, I've done that whilst I've been here, actually.
Oh,
I've had somebody there.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. And he has thousands of people, so you probably helped spread the word for me. So I appreciate that. Anyway, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. And I will see you next week, same time, for another live session of Vishimi's Business Show. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh, hang on. Someone said, what's your name? I forgot. His name is Paul Green.
Paul Green. Unfortunately, there are lots of them, but but if you search for me on there, I'm more than happy to connect with you.
And yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything, maybe we can put a book list together as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. I will see you all soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye.